Hey growers, what's up? It's Lucas and it's June 16th today. I'm out here on my half-acre vegetable garden and this video is going to be a little different than ones I've been doing as of late. See, I've been thinking that making videos where I'm just kind of walking around my garden and highlighting certain key points about it and giving some tips and tricks along the way is going to be a lot more efficient and valuable way to get these videos out there for you guys. I actually forgot to label what I planted on each of these tomato rows. So believe it or not, I actually kind of don't know what variety this is, but I know that it's either Damsel or Martha Washington. So it's one of those two. So this is kind of a pinkish beefsteak type tomato. You can see these plants here actually look pretty good. I wish so much that I could say this for all the tomato plants, but unfortunately that's just not true. You see, a lot of them just don't look very healthy. They look kind of wilty and kind of yellowy, not the dark green leaves that I would hope for. And you know, over the last few weeks, they just really haven't grown that much. This is pretty disappointing for me because I put a lot of time and effort into getting this farm prepared, getting the black plastic mulch laid. The cherry tomato plants were the first plants that I actually planted in this garden, and some of them actually don't look that bad. This one right here is the Clementine variety. It's an orange hybrid cocktail tomato. It's starting to get its first flower cluster and they actually look pretty good. And the stem is nice and strong, and it's got suckers growing out of it. My dad and I fertilized every plant a few days ago, and I really thought they'd bounce back, and I thought they'd do a lot better. It's just weird how some of these plants actually don't look too bad, and then others just, you know, they just aren't having it. It's really hard to tell how these are going to turn out, these ones here that are actually looking pretty good. Like this row for the most part is looking pretty good. I've also got some Super Sweet 100 cherry tomatoes that are looking all right. So this is one of my favorite varieties to grow as far as cherry tomatoes go. I made a whole video on my top 3 cherry tomatoes to grow, and this is one of them. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. I'll put the link in the description below. So as far as tomatoes go, overall, fairly disappointed right now. They're not doing as well as I had hoped, unfortunately. I still have some faith, especially in these cherry tomatoes, because they're looking really strong compared to the beefsteaks. I've also got a row of sun gold cherry tomatoes, and again, those are one of my favorite cherries to grow on my top 3 list of best cherry tomatoes to grow. You can see this plant here looks pretty healthy. A little, like I said, all these ones, they have kind of purplish tinges in their stems. It needs a bit of nutrients. So switching into more positive gears, I wanted to show you guys how my pumpkin patch is doing. This has kind of become my pride and joy of the half-acre vegetable garden project because the pumpkins actually look pretty good. I'm actually surprised. So it's going to be really nice to see if I can get some really good pumpkins. So this is a row of Blanco pumpkins, and it is a white variety of pumpkin. So it's kind of unique, kind of interesting, and that's why I chose it, because obviously it's unique. You know, you don't see white pumpkins every day. So you can see here that these plants actually look pretty good, and they're really starting to take off. I planted these, I think, around May 24th, and so it was pretty cold at that time. And pumpkins, if you know anything about growing squash and pumpkins, is they really like warm weather. So that was kind of a mistake to grow it at that time. But despite a few cold weeks and actually some night temps that were almost down to 0 degrees, these plants are looking all right, and they're really bouncing back now because we're starting to get that heat, that warm weather, and that's what these plants are going to really take off with. So as you see, the pumpkins are doing really well on the black plastic mulch. In between the rows, the grass is also growing very well. So that's a bit of a problem because this stuff is going to get really tall, and it's going to potentially cause problems where my plants are just going to get absolutely taken over by grass. So I'm going to have to be getting out here with a lawnmower and going in between the rows. Although these pumpkin plants look good, unfortunately I have had some problems with the stems snapping. Somehow they're still alive and they seem to be doing well, so I'm not exactly sure if that's going to be an issue. You know, obviously they're not going to get the nutrient levels that they probably could if their stem was fully intact. Next, I have a row of Cinnamon Girl pie pumpkins. Now this is a really unique looking pumpkin plant. You can see the leaves are kind of serrated. They have these serrated edges, and it actually almost looks like a watermelon, but I know that it's not. So I wanted to grow some pie pumpkins because I love pumpkin pie. It's probably my favorite pie, and hopefully I can figure out how to make some pumpkin pies. I also wanted to grow the pie pumpkins to add some diversity to my pumpkin patch, and also I think they're going to sell really well at the farmer's market. So the Cinnamon Girl pumpkins looking really good. This next row here has a variety called Knucklehead, and you can see I use these flags to label the rows of pumpkins, and I should have done this with the tomatoes and the peppers and the cucumbers. So the Knucklehead pumpkins are a pretty cool variety. They've got warts all over them. And the reason I decided to actually grow this variety is because my uncle's brother, he's a vegetable farmer, and last year he grew a bunch of this warted variety. I can't remember what the name was. I think it was warted goblin or something of that sort. But anyway, he told me that it sells really well in the farm stand. Hopefully I can sell a bunch of these at the farmer's market and also have some awesome pumpkins for my Halloween display as well. And one of the cool things about this variety, and I've seen this on other varieties as well, but they get kind of this whitish pattern on here. And it's kind of hard to see on camera. I'm not sure if you can pick that up, especially with this sun. And you can see this one here is starting to develop some buds, some flowers. And so that's always a good sign, especially when these plants are looking so healthy. And so we should get a great crop of pumpkins this year. So I've got plenty more rows of pumpkins. This is another row of knucklehead. And then this one here is called Rival PMR. Now PMR stands for powdery mildew resistance. And if you didn't already know, powdery mildew is this fungus that gets on the leaves of cucurbits, such as pumpkins, cucumbers, squash. And basically what it does is it just slowly kind of kills the plant. So having that powdery mildew resistance is going to hopefully allow these plants to survive longer and produce better and more pumpkins. This is another row of Rival PMR. Rival is just a kind of medium-sized jack-o'-lantern, and so it's a really nice stocky plant, and I think it's going to produce about 2 to 3 pumpkins per plant, probably 2. Not huge, but a great medium carving pumpkin. This one's huge. Look at that. Wow. Then I got another row of Rival PMR doing very well. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but these plants' leaves are facing a particular direction. So you can see if I walk down the row this way, they are actually facing that way because the sun is actually over there right now. So it's natural that the leaves are following the sun. And if you go down the row this way, you can see that the leaves are a lot more visible because this is the way they're tilted. They're kind of like those solar panel farms where the solar panels actually follow the sun. This is another row of pumpkins here. This variety is called Champion, and it's supposed to be a pretty good sized jack-o'-lantern type pumpkin. Okay growers, so this row right here is called Igor. It is a huge, crazy looking pumpkin. It's got these really heavy ridges in it, and I think it's going to be a great jack-o'-lantern for Halloween because it's a really huge pumpkin. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I go out to the pumpkin patch, I always try to find the biggest pumpkin possible because I want that huge pumpkin. I want that huge pumpkin with an awesome, scary face on it. And for the last 2 rows here, I got a variety called Cargo PMR. Now again, this stands for powdery mildew resistance. These plants are supposed to be warriors in the garden in defense against this horrible disease called powdery mildew, which will ultimately destroy your crop if you let it. I've got a row of medium hot peppers, so not the crazy hots. This variety right here is called Red Flame. You can see it's actually looking pretty good. I've got pretty nice looking colored leaves. It's starting to fork off into its kind of first main fork, and it's getting some sucker growth, some side shoots growing out. So that being said, it's hard to see if they're going to continue growing well, or if this soil is just going to be completely nutrient deficient and not be able to support them. Then on the front half of this row, I have a variety called El Jefe. Now this is kind of a cool variety because of its name, really. That's the only reason it's cool. It's a jalapeno, so it's just your standard green pepper. They look pretty good too, pretty decent. And this right here is my row of sweet peppers. This one was supposed to be all sweet peppers as well. And you can see it's double rowed. So I put all these holes 18 inches apart because that's kind of the recommended spacing for pepper plants like sweet peppers. You can see on this one, I've done them side by side adjacent, whereas with this one, I tried something a little different and I tried staggering them. So you can see in kind of a zigzag pattern. This one here is probably actually better than this one. This one here is going to be kind of bushy here. These are going to be bushy here. So it's going to kind of, they're all going to have some good spacing. This variety at the front here is called Escamillo. It's a yellowish orange sweet pepper that I'm really excited about growing this year. It's an All-America Selections winner, so that's supposed to be a really top-notch variety. So far so good actually. The plants look pretty decent, so I can't complain as of yet. All these empty holes here, that was supposed to be a variety called Carmen, which actually starts right here. And Carmen is a red variety of sweet pepper. It's basically the red version of the Escamillo. And actually, I'm not a history buff at all, but I find it kind of interesting that the Escamillo and Carmen actually were named after these people in a play, in an opera. And apparently they were like lovers. So I thought it would be fitting to put them next to each other. These empty holes here are supposed to be the X3R Red Knight. That's a red bell pepper that I grew last year. It grew really well and I was impressed with it, so I thought I'd grow it again. It actually starts right here. You can see I've got a decent little row here. These plants are actually looking all right. They're looking decent. Can't complain as of yet. So this one right here is called, from about the middle of this black plastic to the end, is a variety called Sweet Sunrise. It's a yellow bell pepper. I grew it last year in my garden and it didn't do that great, so I wanted to give it another shot and grow it again this year. So here we are. Again, these plants look decent. It's really hard to tell what they're going to do in the future. Oh man, guys, this video is getting way too long, but you know, I've just got so much to show you guys in this half-acre garden. There's a lot going on. So this variety here is called Noche or Noche. I'm pretty sure it's just Noche. This is probably one of the healthiest looking ones in this row, and believe it or not, this is one of the most unhealthy squash plants I've ever grown in my life. And this next row over is a variety of summer squash called Golden Glory. Yes, Golden Glory. And this plant right here doesn't look good. I'm not gonna say it looks good, but it looks like it's surviving, and it might bounce back. Again, waited too long to plant these guys, and that is one of the biggest mistakes you can make in gardening: waiting too long to plant stuff out or planting stuff too early, because you know, it's a double-edged sword. If you plant too early, it'll be too cold and your plants might die. But if you plant too late, it's just, you know, your plants are going to be overgrown. It's going to be starting to get too hot, and it's just, timing is just so important. So this one doesn't look too bad either. There's another Golden Glory, and then this one looks okay as well. Now this variety right here is called Gold Nugget. It's a yellow Determinate cherry tomato. You can see some of these gold nuggets are starting to produce flowers already, but they really shouldn't be at this point because the plants are too kind of weak and unhealthy. They should be focusing on growth right now. This one right here is called Sunrise Sauce. It is a orange Determinate paste type tomato. This was supposed to be a row of Mountain Fresh Plus beefsteak tomatoes, a Determinate variety, but unfortunately I did a really stupid thing. I laid out my plants on the black plastic next to their holes like that, okay, and I didn't plant them that day, and the hot sun basically just like melted the stems, so I just left them out here, and you can see they're dead. This row right here is a variety called Galahad. It's a red Determinate beefsteak tomato, and it's looking decent. Not good, but it's not dead, so we'll see how this goes. And this finally is a row of BHN 871. It is a orange Determinate beefsteak tomato. So this is a row of Carolina Reaper super hot peppers. It used to be the world's hottest pepper. Don't think it is anymore. The plants are not looking the best. You can see they've got a yellowish tinge to them. Next up, I've got a row of hot paper lantern habaneros. Now, I've grown this variety in the past, and it's done very well for me. This year, the plants kind of got away from me, and they got super big before I was able to plant them. They're a little leggy, a little tall. When I planted it, they were already starting to produce flowers, which is not actually ideal for peppers. You want peppers to be producing buds, so have these little green buds poking out, but you don't want them to actually be open flowers. One of the things I actually messed up on when I planted these things is that I left the root ball above the surface of the soil, and this is a no-no when it comes to planting. So what happens is that this thing basically wicks water away into the air very quickly. It acts as kind of a wick effect, which will dry out the plant relatively quickly. So really what I should be doing is going over here and kind of covering that with the native soil here. Hopefully we'll at least get some peppers from these plants. And then these here are supposed to be the ghost peppers. Now a lot of them look kind of cruddy. This one right here is probably one of the better looking ones, but you can see the leaves are just kind of drooping. It's just not really having it in this environment. This is another quadrant where I have some indeterminate tomatoes as well as some cucumbers. These plants right here are the Black Crim variety. It's an heirloom, and they're supposed to be kind of a black, dark colored tomato. So kind of nifty. They're looking fairly healthy relative to the other ones, but again, they do have that yellow kind of tinge to their leaves, and their stems are a bit purple. You can see this one is starting to push out some new blooms. This next row over is a variety called Purple Russian. It is a variety I got from a hacker in Russia. Just kidding, no, it was free seeds that came with Baker Creek heirloom seeds. These next 2 rows are the San Marzano tomatoes. This is a classic Italian indeterminate paste tomato. So it's, again, they're looking okay, all relative to the rest of the field. Then I got half a row of Granaderos and half a row of green zebras. The Granadero is a indeterminate vining type sauce tomato. It's a hybrid, and it's supposed to produce really nice plum tomatoes that are great for making sauce. And the green zebras are a tomato that ripens to green with kind of whitish, yellowish stripes. Then I have a row of speckled Roman tomatoes. This is a heirloom sauce tomato with kind of a really cool reddish orangish striping pattern on it. You can see this variety's got kind of a unique type of tomato leaf. It's kind of wispy leafed. Then I've got a row of cucumbers. I think this variety is called Bristol, but I could be mistaken. And then I have another row of cucumbers. Again, I'm really not sure what this variety is called. I should have labeled these plants. This is a variety called Butterscotch. So I pretty much showed you every type of plant that I'm growing in this half acre, but I actually forgot to show you some of my indeterminate tomatoes. So let's finally take a look at those and then wrap this thing up. So this row right here is a variety called Blush. It is a cool kind of elongated, not really a sauce tomato, but almost like a huge cherry tomato, but it's not quite as sweet. I would say it's more like a slicing or cocktail type tomato. And you can see it's got these wispy branches, just like the speckled Roman plants, very similar. And these ones are starting to push out some blooms, just like a lot of the other plants. This row over here I already touched on. This is the Prudence Purple. It is a kind of pink heirloom tomato. This variety over here I'm pretty sure is called Martha Washington. Again, I didn't label these varieties as I planted them, which I definitely should have, but it's a pink beefsteak tomato. I'm pretty sure it's a hybrid, so it's supposed to be a pink beefsteak hybrid that has flavor qualities to an heirloom. So it should be a really good tasting tomato if it works out. And this right here, I am assuming, is the Big Beef, which is a variety that I've grown before. Produces these really nice red beefsteak tomatoes. And this is a row of black cherry tomatoes. This plant was on my top 3 list of cherry tomatoes to grow, a video I made last year. Again, it's in the link in the description down below. Go check it out. And the only row that I did not yet mention is the white cherry tomatoes. Now, this cherry tomato is not looking that great. You can see it looks kind of deformed and almost like herbicide damage, but I don't think it is. Some of the plants look better than others. It is labeled white cherry, but it is yellow. Okay guys, so that is it for this video. Finally, it was a super long video and it took me way too long. Yep, you heard that correctly. There is a train going in the background. So guys, finally, that's it for this video. It was a very long video, and if you stuck around this far into the video, then you are seriously, obviously a super huge fan of growing vegetables and watching really long, fairly unorganized videos. So congratulations, I guess. And in the future, guys, I'm going to be making videos where I'm more highlighting stuff and not showing you guys every little thing, like every little plant that I'm growing, probably, because obviously this is kind of a crazy video format. You can see there's my plot, and the farmer's field is kind of just kind of across from that, about 15 feet away. And you can see this farmer here is growing, it looks to me like soybeans. And these plants are looking pretty good. I'm assuming they fertilize this field a lot, and also that's probably GMO. Like, I would be shocked if that was not GMO. Sorry for the ranty video. Hope you enjoyed, and if you did, then that's awesome. And I hope this video was valuable to you, and that it provided some insights into the progress of my farm today on June 16th. So thanks for watching. I'm Lucas from LucasGrowsBest, and I'll see you next time.